An interesting video got put out by Think Before You Sleep. I don't know if any of you have been following the what's happened between Chris Broad and Oriental Pearl. We talked a bit about it. We even reacted to Think Before You Sleep's first video. But it seems like there's more to the story that has developed a bit, and it appears that that politics is playing a part in this. So let's take a look.
If you are a large content creator, both literally and metaphorically, you should be willing to accept a degree of scrutiny. I know I do. Every time I release a video, people attack me for various things.
Sounds good. I'm glad Chris is so open to criticism. For those of you who don't know, there's been a little drama going on in the Japan YouTuber space between Oriental Pearl and the owner of probably the biggest foreigner in Japan YouTube channel, Chris Broad. The whole thing has been shocking because previously I was a longtime fan of Chris. He seems like a genuine good guy who is fun to watch. But what I've ended up finding out while watching this whole event unfold is that Chris is kind of a petty sociopath who is probably guilty of at least 2 different crimes.
Sociopath is a fairly dramatic way to put it, but it appears that a lot of his success may have gone to his head. By the way, chat, still getting over some allergies, so if there's an awkward pause, it is to blow my nose. But yeah, incredible to watch someone I admired and respected so much. He even found his filmmaking rather inspiring, and he decides to do something so terribly irresponsible that really cast him in quite a negative light. It's sort of behavior that you would expect from scum-sucking parasites at the BBC, and not from someone I thought was an independent content creator like Chris Broad. But here we are. Defamation is very different in Japan than in the USA, yes, and that's been some of the things that they've been grappling with. I think Legal Mindset has chimed in on this. It's possible there might be a bit of a case. Trouble is, neither Chris Broad nor Oriental Pearl are citizens of Japan. I think they might both at this point be permanent residents, but even then, I think Japanese courts are going to be a bit loath to want to touch this sort of thing. They're more interested in the best interest of citizens, and neither Oriental Pearl nor Chris Broad are citizens of Japan. And from what we're going to hear, it sounds like Chris Broad's got a long way to go before he has any hope of wanting to be a Japanese citizen.
If you want the full story, then you can watch this video here that I made, but for the people who haven't seen it yet, let's do a quick recap of the stuff that's happened that's related to this video. This whole thing started out when Oriental Pearl, or Alyssa, made a video called What is Happening to Japan, where she tries to bring awareness to problems like graffiti, homelessness, and a popular news story in Japan about teenagers who are runaways from abusive homes.
The graffiti just seems to be getting worse. I've seen this over...
Yeah, and all anybody focused in on was the graffiti, not the homelessness. Nobody seems to give a shit about the homelessness, which is quite telling of people's priorities.
The last few years. The city actually did come and repaint this whole bridge because it looked like that green wall before. But as you see, it's already back.
Chris did...
Yeah, we reacted to all of this before, and it's disgusting. And it's, as I said in the previous react, which is up on the YouTube and the Rumble channel right now if you want to go check it out for yourself, this cannot go on. There was another picture posted somewhere. I didn't save it or anything, showing what appeared to be 2 vending machines that are being vandalized with their the portion that accepts coins. It looks like they were just pried off or blasted open or something like that. It was just a brazen attempt at stealing a lot of loose change from vending machines. And someone, I think in the Eurosphere, tweeted out, "You've got maybe 2 years to respond to this with drastic, immediate action before the whole thing spirals out of control." So, I don't know. And for all we know, that photo could have been created by AI. There could be some missing context to the photograph. But, yeah, it's it's a rather jarring image. It's sort of like how smash and grab robbers will smash a car or a truck into a storefront just to grab the ATM, throw it in the back, and screech off with it.
Didn't like this video, so he went onto Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, the YouTube community tab, and Alyssa's comment section to air out his grievances and to be an apologist for criminals, to which I'm sure the Japanese people are just super happy about. In response, Alyssa posted on Facebook and made a video asking Chris to remove the comments, which, as I said in the prior video, I can see
Yeah, this asking him to take it down, I think that was a mistake.
why she asked him to do that, but I think it was a bad move because it looks a lot like censoring critics. Next, the most egregious part, Chris releases this video here where he does such bad research on homelessness that I can only assume that it was intentional to minimize how much of an issue it is in Japan.
The area is also synonymous with Tokyo's homeless population as far back as 2003, which, according to the statistics, is thankfully going down. And if you walk around there today, compared to 10 years ago, there are far less homeless people.
This is wrong. The article that he got these numbers from admits they are inaccurate right under the headline. Chris also takes Alyssa out of context numerous times, one of which where he CNN-style or BBC-style edits her to make it look like she's laughing at homeless people.
A few years ago, a friend showed me a clip of a video in which the same person walked through an economically deprived part of Tokyo filming homeless people.
Oh my gosh, this is a rough area.
Under the guise of showing the real Japan.
What actually happened here is that Alyssa was being sexually harassed and was laughing uncomfortably after a guy offered to buy her for sex.
Context matters.
何買うんですか?
お前よバカ野郎やるぞ一発
No, 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 no,
Rose
no.
came out and say it.
Oh
Welcome in,
my
Angel
gosh,
Rose.
this is a rough area.
Hello.
Yeah. ちょっとやばい話で
おい
す。
おいこらスモールスモール
Yeah,
いや
bye
いや、大
indeed.
丈夫です。
Chris's edit of this moment very much looks like defamation, and in Japan, where they both live, defamation, I believe, is a criminal offense.
Abroad in Japan, you should be ashamed of yourself. You knew exactly what you were doing.
If you still have respect for the
Metatron
guy at
just
this
now.
point, I question you.
And last, Chris has filmed a number of videos that look a lot like paid advertisements and hasn't exactly been transparent about being compensated in return for promoting companies like Japan Railways. In fact, it seems like in this one, he went out of his way to convince the audience that it wasn't an ad. This is a crime in America, and I'm not a Japanese lawyer, but I believe it's also a crime in Japan. Which
Yeah, I can't remember if he made the disclaimer that it was being sponsored by Japan Railways, which, if he forgot to put that in, that's a problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a fine sponsor, Japan Railways. I'd love to have them as a sponsor myself. And it's fine to have sponsors, but you have to disclose. That's the thing that gets people a lot of times, is they forget they have to disclose these things. And there's really no point. There's really no point in keeping it a secret.
I was just about to say, isn't he sponsored by these people?
Yeah, I mean, he works for an agency that their big thing is to promote Japan tourism, and so I mean, it makes sense that he would have sponsors like Japan Railways. But yeah, it's if he did not disclose that, that's a problem.
brings us back to Chris's video, What is Happening to Japan, where he has changed the pinned comment to respond to recent events. Now, this comment has been edited multiple times, but for the sake of authenticity, I'm going to use the original. Over the past couple of days, an onslaught of channels, many of whom appear to be friends of the creator in question, have criticized this video and myself. An onslaught of channels? Chris, go fuck yourself. Your video alone got like 10 times the exposure that our videos got, which, by the way, was just 4 creators, and this is not including the additional 2 or so million views of exposure that Chris got because of all the people who blindly agreed with him. To sit
he got Connor to come out in defense of him. I think he had Dogan doing that as well. Nick Petitas.
Oh God,
Rosso, welcome in. Oh yes, and there's the there's also this interesting note up here. Chris had his huge creator friends promote the video, and then asking the question of CDog VA here: are you still friends with a terrorist, Connor? Referring to Hassan Piker, who has been a guest not once, but at least twice on the Trash Taste podcast, and has also been on streams with Connor as they go on walkabouts and pub crawls in Tokyo.
You know, it says like how bad a person fucked up. If even Sea Dog, who had a whole cafe in Japan at one point with Iron Mouse, asked something like that.
Yeah, he's not having a good time lately.
Sit here and call this an onslaught of channels against you and pretend that you're the victim here when you started this and you by yourself have way more influence than all of us combined is insane. Not to say that my channel is small, but Chris is friends with like PewDiePie and a ton of the most popular influencers on the internet. This is by no means a fair fight, and he is not the victim. I originally hoped to draw a line under the matter, but since a handful of viewers have asked for further context, I'm absolutely willing to elaborate. He's talking about me here. This comment was made in response to my video. Who else would he be talking about? He kept his mouth shut about this for over 3 weeks and conveniently had a response 2 or 3 days after my video released. But notice that just like how he blurred out Oriental Pearl's face and her channel name in his video, he did not cite any of the source material that he's talking about here in the pinned comment, or let people know where they could find the criticism. It's almost like he doesn't want people fact-checking him by watching the source video. And make no mistake, the reason he is saying something now is not because like 3 or 4 viewers wanted further clarification. It's because he...
Of course he doesn't want people fact-checking him because he knows he doesn't have a leg to stand on with this.
Likely was just caught committing multiple crimes. He doesn't want people to know about this, which is why instead of going on to every social media platform in existence to air out his grievances, like he originally did with Alyssa, he posts this response on the pinned comment of a video that's already got most of the views that it will get for the time being. So the millions of people who are misinformed by that defamatory edit he made of Alyssa won't see this response. Moving on, in CNN or BBC-like fashion...
It's sort of like, shout the headline, whisper the retraction.
Chris starts his post off with a bunch of irrelevant filler bullshit content that he is using in the hopes that his viewers will get bored of reading before he actually responds to the most egregious allegations. This makes you...
That's exactly what he's doing. But if not him, his public relations people that work with him, because you have to remember, he does work for an agency. It's effectively a public relations firm, and their primary mission is to promote Japan tourism. So if this wasn't written by him, it was written by PR people who, they know all the tricks, and this is them playing all the different magic tricks all at once.
You look guilty, Chris. Anyway, so he starts his message out with whataboutism filler content about faces not being blurred. And just to quickly address this, clearly Chris knows how to use a blur effect, yet he didn't blur any of these faces either. So obviously he doesn't actually care. Anyway, let's skip all the word vomit and move on to the tiny bit at the end where Chris actually addresses a single issue that I brought up in my first video, which was the defamation claim. After this video was published, one edit to that montage was made, removing a couple of seconds of audio to avoid any potential confusion about chronology. This did not alter any argument or claim. Chris, you're full of shit. Also, technically it was 2 edits because he showed that moment twice. The moment in question is the one where he edits the audio to make it look like Alyssa's laughing at homeless people, when in reality, she's being sexually harassed by a guy who isn't homeless. But sure, he did it to make certain that people...
Kind of hard to believe he's... It stretches credulity to believe that that man was homeless when he's got a Burberry scarf on.
I was just about to comment on the scarf.
Yeah. Seems something a bit too bougie for a homeless person to be wearing.
People wouldn't be confused about the sequence of events. Don't worry, it didn't alter any of my claims. Except your claim is that Alyssa doesn't care about homeless people, which is ridiculous. Alyssa has been doing homeless outreach work for years. So his claim is that she doesn't...
Yeah, she's actually been doing the work here. And it's a topic that she's fairly passionate about, which is more than can be said for Chris Broad, who, at this stage, you can kind of tell he's in it for the money. This is his shtick that he's discovered that pays well, and he's just sort of cashing the checks at this point.
Care about society's most vulnerable, and she's treating them like some sort of exhibit at the zoo for her content. And he's saying this as he edits her out of context to make it look like she's laughing at them. That clearly does alter people's perception of her, and it obviously was an intentional edit. What respectable media-literate guy with journalistic integrity such as Chris claims to be would be stupid enough to use someone being sexually harassed as a weapon against them?
He took such a horrible moment, I'm sure it was horrible for her, being treated like a prostitute, to use a point where she was uncomfortable and nervous and just trying to get out of a bad situation and twist that to make it seem like she was making fun of these homeless people is so despicable that I can't watch any of his videos now and find entertainment or joy like I used to from them.
So again,
I'm the same way after all of this. I know he's had a couple of new videos that have come out. I haven't even bothered to watch them. And it's to the point where I used to do the occasional react stream to things that he would do on his channel. We'd react to it here on stream. After all this, I don't really want to. I don't really want to do that anymore. I would rather react to any of the things that Oriental Pearl has on her channel, or literally anyone else. But yeah, doing something like that, that's a pretty low, scummy sort of thing to try and do to someone. And it's, like I said, you would expect that out of the parasites over at the BBC or any so-called mainstream legacy outlet. But to see that in a supposedly independent new media sort of content creator that's pretty bad. That's when you know he's sort of gone over to the dark side, as it were, has given over to the inclinations of the ungodly.
clearly he intentionally took her out of context and sold an untrue narrative to enhance his point and make her look bad. He does that all over his video. This was just the most egregious example. But all of this begs the question of, if none of this stuff from Chris is about moral standards or helping Japan, then why did he attack Alyssa? Well, why don't we go over some information that I held back on? I think a part of the reason is personal drama, and the other part is about politics. I mentioned in the prior video that it would be difficult to tell how malicious Chris is being without insider information. Here's primarily what I meant. Chris wants to pretend that he had no idea who Alyssa was before this event.
I was accused of painting Japan as a utopia. I was accused of excluding her from my friendship group, somebody I've never met, never spoken to.
He's trying to play word games here to make his audience believe that he had no idea who Alyssa was until like a...
Notice he couldn't even look in the camera when he said that. That's an interesting little tell right there.
a month ago. That's not true. The Western expat community is very small, and it is very easy to randomly bump into other expats, especially if you both live in Tokyo. Chris absolutely knew who Alyssa was before this whole event. He admitted to bumping into her before on a Sora the Troll livestream, and you can even see him slip up during the video where he's like, I don't know her at all. So anyway, a friend showed me this video of hers a few years ago. That being said, here's what I held back on in the previous video. I have Discord leaks of Charla, Chris's fiance, talking about Alyssa from as far back as 2022. Here's the reason why there is animosity between Chris and Alyssa. You can see here that one of the members is sort of complimenting Oriental Pearl or Alyssa.
Hang on. Let's read through some of this.
On the internet, it's forever.
Yeah, that's why I say on your end, keep your receipts, but also do be careful what you share with the world. Because if stuff like that gets out, you better be prepared to wear it like armor. Let's see, I'm glad mostly everyone is alright. Shame about John Dowd, though. It's so important to treat people well, unless they're a dickhead. I'll still watch him as his content is pretty unique, but yeah, bad attitude is certainly a big thing. Disrespect is ultimately bad for business as it drives people away. Oriental Pearl learned that, disassociated herself from some creators for that reason. Sounds like some interesting drama about John Dowd. John Lee, hello, how are you? How are you doing? I hope you had a lovely Christmas holiday and New Year's as well. It's good to see you, as always. Let's see. Now, some of my good friends are on the other side of the country, unfortunately. At least it's somewhat easier to see each other in Japan, unlike Australia, where every city is 4 days apart, haha. I have unsubscribed from a few creators because of something they have towards others. I liked Clyde and Eric until Eric called Chris something. That's a shame Chris only ever says nice things about them. Okay, so my power and electricity are back. Oh, that's good, Beyond Lee. That's good. That is progress. I'm very glad to hear that. I've been wondering about that with you and hoping that you're all right. It sounds like things are coming back slowly but surely. Let's see. Talking about Oriental Pearl, Charla writing, a bit hypocritical of her considering she left rude comments on my videos. Isn't it? I was surprised. I think she found out the hard way as she lost a lot of subscribers like me, so now she's backtracking. But then she put out a video criticizing other polylinguists, so maybe she still hasn't got it. Huh. The whole town of Black River is basically flat. Oh dear. Well, we can only pray that in time things are rebuilt and hopefully it'll be like it never even happened. Though it may take a while to get there.
And Charlotte chimes in and says that Alyssa wrote some mean comments on her YouTube page. And then it ends with someone complaining that Alyssa called out some scammers who are pretending to be fluent in like 15 languages for money. I wonder why they would have an issue with that. But the next question is, what was said? So I asked Alyssa for more context. The exact videos from Charlotte have since been deleted, but Alyssa remembers having about 100 subscribers at that point, and Charlotte was making a lot of cat videos, like a lot of cat videos. So in response, and as a fan during this time, Alyssa said, "I'm not really feeling these cat videos. How terrible, she's so mean."
Not really feeling the cat videos, and for that, Charlotte loses her shit. Hashtag woman moment, anyone?
The second comment that Alyssa made was on a video with Charlotte and her ex-husband, where his head was cut out because he didn't want to be on camera. And Alyssa said that...
Yeah, that was a little bit of personal drama with her for a while. Charlotte was previously married. Divorced, this was years back. And, yeah, sometime after that, I think her and Chris Broad started dating, and dated for a long time, several years. And, news on their Twitter feeds over the course of the Christmas and New Year's holiday, they finally tied the knot. So they are now both Mr. and Mrs. Broad. So, much as we criticize their behavior here, we're at least decent enough sort of people to congratulate them on their nuptials, and certainly wish the best for them in that regard, which is apparently more than can be said for what they would wish for others, maybe? We don't know.
It was kind of awkward. That was it. Multi-year grudge because of a couple of comments that are basically just viewer feedback from someone who wasn't really a YouTuber at that point. And because of that, Charlotte has been doing things like gatekeeping Alyssa from going to local events that other people want her at. So basically...
All this because someone just said, yeah, not really feeling the videos here, Charlotte. Maybe try a different approach. We'd like to see something else as your audience. Which certainly the audience has every right to say that sort of thing to the content creator of, yeah, not really feeling it. Maybe try something else, And as a good content creator, you want to leave your suggestion box open and be open to trying new things because in the end, you're doing it to entertain an audience. But I guess Charlotte thinks she's above that sort of thing.
A lot of the attacks from Chris are because Charlotte hates Alyssa over some petty bullshit. Well, maybe she also hates her out of jealousy because Alyssa's been married to a Japanese guy for multiple years now. Whereas how many years were Charlotte and Chris together and unmarried? Close to a decade? 3-year engagement, holy
Fairly
shit.
Close.
That doesn't sound like someone who has a lot of faith in their relationship. A little life advice, if you want someone to trust you, Charlotte, then
I mean, okay. To be totally fair, and as somebody who is divorced myself, that sort of experience can mentally and emotionally leave behind some bruising, some scars. And it makes it to where you can be rather hesitant to want to just jump back into any sort of relationship. Because, yeah, you're rightfully and justifiably scared that you're going to get hurt again. So, personally, I don't fault Charlotte and Chris for taking their time like that. On that particular point, I think I'm going to disagree with Think Before You Sleep. Because, yeah, things are different once you get divorced. And so you tend to want to take your time on things, not rush things, because you don't want to make the same mistake again. Because the first time you made that mistake, it cost you. It cost you in terms of divorce proceedings, divorce lawyers, having to pack up all your shit and either move back in with parents or move somewhere else and kind of start your life over again and do it all by yourself. It's and plus I understand that Charlotte's she's had her share of health problems too. So it's I think something like that would also affect one's judgment, to where some people will just dive headfirst into a relationship because they just don't want to be alone in case something terrible happens, and that's the end of it for them. Other people take a much more cautious, pragmatic attitude of I want to make sure that we're getting into all this for the right reasons, and when or if the health improves, I don't want to
It's understandable.
yeah, when health improves, we don't want to all of a sudden look at a relationship in a different light. Sorry, I just had somebody barge in on me unexpectedly. My parents are divorced. Mom jumped into a new relationship months after. Oh, I see. I mean, some people are like that. Some people, they get divorced and they're just like, you know what? You just got to jump right back in the saddle and try again. Which, I mean, more power to them if they do that. That's rather brave approach to take there. But yeah, I think my takes on a lot of these are a bit more nuanced than what we're seeing here with Think Before You Sleep.
I would highly suggest that you refrain from shooting OnlyFans content. I'm sorry, that was petty. I shouldn't have said that. But when someone who has the obvious jealous energy...
That right there, apparently there was some clarification in order for that. Charlotte did not do OnlyFans. She did some sort of, I don't know, spicy thing for charity for a friend's OnlyFans, a Fansly, or something like that. So it wasn't technically her doing OnlyFans.
of an obese man who's about 5'7" gets millions of views defaming your friend, you tend to feel a little bit petty. So that's what this whole video from Chris is about. It has a lot more to do with his fiance or whatever being catty than it does to do with calling out morally objectionable behavior. This is why, despite him saying that the Japan is over content is like this huge trend in his video, he only goes after Alyssa.
It's extremely...
Yeah, he's kind of behaving like a whipped cock at this point. He's a bit of a cuckold at this stage. And it's sad to see.
Important to portray objective reality as best you can online. When you're a big creator, there is a burden of responsibility. Imagine if I'd made a video, the original What's Happening to Japan video, myself, right, with an audience of 3 million people. Some people, rational people, would have called me out and been like, Chris, mate, a bit of graffiti and some bin bags is not Japan. But a lot of people would have been, oh, Chris is a figure of several million followers. I respected some of his previous videos. He's right on this. And I am in a position to shape opinions.
I mean, in reality, it seems like you're very aware of what you can get away with because people see you as an authority figure, and you actively exploited that to attack a creator that you don't like. He doesn't care about any of this shit morally. He's doing most, if not all, the bad things that he accuses her of, which is why I think this is far more about personal drama his fiancé has than it is about morality. And this isn't the first time that Chris has taken shots at Alyssa.
With Tokyo vlog content overload from other channels, anything unique, exciting and new from abroad in Japan that we haven't seen before when you move to Tokyo. Well, now that I'm here in Tokyo, I can assure you, you're going to see the most groundbreaking, dynamic, original Japan-based content that you have ever seen. Content like, White Man Speaks Japanese to Strangers, Shock Surprise Sugoi, Mind's Blown.
This is almost a direct copy of one of Alyssa's thumbnails, more proof that he's actually known about her for years. She's not someone he just found out about. This attack right here is purely about him not liking her. It's not about the...
It almost makes you wonder, it's like, does she live rent-free in his head at this point? If he's known about her for so long, and engage in this sort of catty behavior, which, I'll admit it was. If you're going to roast someone, that is fairly humorous, but also at the same time, it sort of leads you to wonder just how much does Oriental Pearl live rent-free in Chris Broad's head. Sure, Tugal, welcome in. How are you?
Content format, because, when it's a Japanese creator doing this, like Kazu Languages or Namaste Kohei, Chris says nothing. Alyssa isn't even the most popular
it's
person
fine when
in
they
this
do
niche.
it.
I believe that it's Xiaoma, who is so ridiculous that he literally made a video where he's like, I surprised monkeys by speaking monkey to them. So again, none of this was about morality. All of the grandstanding was clearly just a way to attack Alyssa. I don't really know how anyone can ever trust a guy again who would defame someone and try to cover it up because his girlfriend of like 8 years got offended by a comment saying, I'm not feeling the cat videos. And Chris will sit here playing the victim, saying how this put him through a dark and depressing chapter, which personally I think has a lot more to do with alcohol abuse than another creator making a video he didn't like.
That sounds like some tea all on its own. I mean, Chris has admitted that he definitely drank too much in his youth and even picked up a rather nasty smoking habit when he was first in Japan. But, more to that story. I should be very interested to hear about that.
But he'll say that this is such a dark time for him, as he defamed someone and essentially got away with it. Though, as I said, there's also a second part of this, which is about a difference in politics that normally I wouldn't have cared about. However, I now find this political difference between Oriental Pearl and Chris to be a little concerning, especially considering that he now knows he can get away with defamation and get overwhelming support from his audience and other creators. The concerning part is that Chris is actually fairly politically radical, but he's hiding it because he has a mixed audience and doesn't want to lose followers. Before I elaborate on that, let's talk about the comment section from Chris's video. Now, I would be lying if I said I didn't notice that Chris's comment section changed a bit after my video came out. That's just what happens when anyone gets criticized on YouTube. Unfortunately, there's nothing that you can really do about it. However, the issue here is that prior to this, Chris made a big deal by saying it was censorship when Alyssa asked him to remove his comments about her, and did a speech on how creators should be open to scrutiny.
Now, I think if you are a large content creator, both literally and metaphorically, you should be willing to accept a degree of scrutiny. I know I do. Every time I release a video, people attack me for various things. And if I see something that I believe misconstrues reality, then I'm going to call it out as well.
Well, I just so happened to notice that after Chris went onto every social media platform in existence to trash Alyssa, and after tons of creators were trashing her as well, she didn't delete the comments that came from his fans, even after weeks of constant brigading on multiple videos. Alyssa also did not delete Chris's comment on her video either. However, 2 days after my video released, I noticed that all the comments on Chris's video made by new viewers mysteriously disappeared, and so did everyone else. Here's something else that happened. Much like Chris felt free.
I mean, it's his channel, he can do what he wants. I've deleted comments on my YouTube videos as well that were just people behaving like dickheads. Just because I can, and because I don't want to see any of that shit. Some people are fine leaving that sort of thing up. Other people are just like, you know what? I'm going to protect my peace by any means necessary. And if that means I have to delete comments and block people to do it, so be it. There's arguments to be made for both, so...
Yeah, there's two sides to that little thing.
Yeah, they can do what they want.
To post in Alyssa's comment section, Alyssa posted this message offering a chance to work things out. Alyssa is a conservative Catholic. She's actually very Catholic, and a part of her faith is to genuinely offer forgiveness to people who've wronged her. Anyway.
Even after all this has happened, it's not too late to have an adult conversation face to face. That's what should have been done from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I think that right there, combined with the fact that his now wife doesn't like her very much, you've got that dynamic duo there of reasons to go after her the way he did. Combine that with just simple petty jealousy. Because if he felt truly confident and sure of himself,
he'd let his actions do the talking.
He would let his actions do the talking. He would also probably not even acknowledge her existence. Because now that he's done that, he has effectively admitted to the entire world This woman gets under my skin. This person bothers me. I feel threatened by this person. I'm insecure, and I think on some level, she's doing things better than I am. And I'm jealous and threatened by that. All he had to do was not say a damn thing, but apparently challenge impossible.
Hey, Chris deleted that comment almost instantly.
Call out people that are wrong, including me, including him. If we say things that you don't think are right, always call the people out.
Lad, you've said a lot of things that aren't right, and so is the ginger over here. And you have been called out, and you don't seem to pay it much mind. So, spare us the whole magnanimous approach, because we're not buying it.
Especially if there are people in positions of influence.
Right. I found this comment here too, saying that Chris is immune to hate comments, which is why he spends tons of time deleting them, especially ones that might notify his fans that he defamed someone. Wait, did he like his own post? Cringe.
And for some clarity, I really don't dislike this person.
Another L take. I don't think it's wrong to like your own post. It's just trying to bump it up in the algorithm. However, as literal as much as you possibly can. I've done that to a couple of my own posts, so it's all part of the game. So that tiny little bit of an L take there.
So I dislike their content, not just this video, but some other videos, which I'll discuss. I know I can be sarcastic and silly, but I'm genuinely not a malicious person. I quite honestly wish her well. And I ask you, if you disagree with her, if you disagree with me, that you always comment in a respectful manner and don't share any hatred online.
I think he's just saying that. I have a lot of trouble believing that this wasn't malicious.
It all just sounds like arse covering. And people know arse covering when they hear it.
Considering the prior drama with Charla and the defamatory edit, and also the numerous false allegations in his video against Oriental Pearl that were pretty easy to prove as untrue with a small amount of research. But I mean, what's the point in being respectful if you're just going to delete Alyssa's comment anyway? However, I think what's more telling is the comments that he didn't delete. In fact, there were 2 comments that I noticed that he liked. Here's the first one. Thank you, Chris, for being a voice of reason in these trying times. What, did AI write this? All the haters are coming from a right-wing YouTuber called Think Before You Sleep. Now, there were a number of sycophants supporting Chris in the comments after my video released.
Oh no, a right-wing YouTuber. We can't have that now, can we?
But I only personally saw him like this one, the one that mentions my politics. The other like was found by somebody else. But when Chris started going on his comment deleting fury, he removed this like and deleted the comment below it that ratioed it. Here's the second like by Chris that was thankfully caught by a YouTuber who goes by Evil Dia. It comes under a comment talking about Chris's edited clip, and it says, "You meant white nationalists think before you sleep?"
Yeah, because anyone they disagree with must be a white nationalist. Pathetic.
I mean, if Chris wants to say I'm a white nationalist when all I did in my video was say what Japanese people are saying, then I think that maybe Japan isn't that great of a fit for him. He literally liked a comment that had the energy of, "Everyone I disagree with is a Nazi." And I get labeled as this because I said that foreigners need to learn English if they want to live in America, illegals should be deported, and we shouldn't import too many people at the same time. These are all things that Japanese people believe. By the way, the evidence of this like is also gone. But thankfully, what's happened here with all these likes is that it's confirmed a little suspicion that I've had, because it's hard to tell what Chris's exact stances are. However, he will slip up a bit with dog whistles like this.
In fact, the King of America himself is here in Japan for I think 48 hours. Right. Mr. Trump, President Trump is here.
There's also this little moment here when he talks about the menu from when Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi and Trump met.
I've just found the menu for what they had for lunch. They had, the Prime Minister had lunch. Here's what they had. I mean, the steak sounds good. Don't know about the rest, but what do you reckon? Would you be happy with that if you're the dictator?
You can see he kind of stopped himself there, and these sort of seem like innocuous comments, but he said them to virtue signal to his leftist audience without pissing off the people on the right who also watch him. He wants the left to know where he lies politically, but he still wants the YouTube money and the tourism money from people on the right, so he'll purposefully make his exact stances unclear. But there are dog whistles like this all over Chris's content.
And a lot of people are getting wise and learning how to detect those dog whistles. And a lot more people on the right are becoming much more discerning consumers of content, products, services, and especially in the wake of the murder of Charlie Kirk. So many people, they've just had it. They don't want to do business with people that hate them. They don't want to give money to people who hate them. And it's to the point where a lot of people on the right have to operate under the protective presumption that anyone to their left hates them and wants them dead. I mean, what are you supposed to think after the Charlie Kirk shooting? What happened at Brown University? You know, all of these political killings that seem to target only certain people. What are you supposed to think? That everything's fine? That hamburgers are filet mignon? That it's raining when someone's just pissing on your leg? No, there's at least one half of the country that hates us and wants us dead. There's even one half of the Western world that hates the other half and wants to see them dead. And they've got leaders in power in many of their governments that are happy to oblige them. So yeah, much as I'm sure he's got a fantastic eSIM company that can help you to still operate your phone when you're traveling over in Japan, and I'm sure they've got decent drinks being served at the Lost Bar in Shibuya. I just don't want to do business with anyone that, for all I know, just hates me and wants me dead, and would rather just not have to deal with me, and views it as this terrible inconvenience that they have to appeal to me and appeal to my taste and my preferences, and would rather just not do that, would rather just cater to the so-called modern audience.
And what I've found is that when you get people like, say, Illymation, who are pretending to be non-political while at the same time not being able to shut up about their politics, these tend to be people who are very much towards the extreme end of their side. Make no mistake, if you scroll back far enough, you can see a less calculated Chris expressing some Trump derangement syndrome on Twitter in 2016. And to this I say, Chris, nobody cares about your opinion on Trump. You aren't American, nor do you live in America or have U.S. citizenship. How about you stay out of politics that you aren't beholden to?
What's your favourite thing about Donald Trump?
There isn't a favourite thing. Zero.
My favourite thing about Donald Trump is that one day he will die.
Hear, hear.
Messed up, right? Instead of fighting against a chatter wishing death on Trump, Chris agrees with them. Now, Connor did have enough sense to say the comment was morbid, but neither of them say they disagree.
You know that video I did with you where we went to Love Hotel and I jokingly read Art of the Deal?
Yeah.
Some people thought I was serious and were like, I'm really disappointed in you, Chris. Supporting Donald Trump. And it's like, no. I was making fun of the world's shitest book. How did you not see that?
So after seeing this, I don't think it's too outlandish to point out that the second reason I think that Chris attacked Alyssa and thought it was okay to defame her is because she is politically on the right, and he's a part of the segment of the left that openly hates and dehumanizes people they disagree with.
I mean, that was laid bare with what happened after the Charlie Kirk murder. Open season was declared on anyone on the right of the political spectrum. It's honestly this perfect little trifecta that has formed. He hates Oriental Pearl because he views her as a threat to his viewership, his subscriber count, that sort of thing. Hates her because she's conservative, and she's also fairly devout Christian. And also, Mrs. Broad doesn't think very highly of her either, and apparently has tried to gatekeep her out of gatherings and functions and everything else in the Western expat community over in Japan. In Vtuber parlance, a lot of what we're seeing here is what we saw with the whole Vtuber mean girls ganging up on people like Cinder, for example.
Yeah, that was quite something that was not on the bingo card.
Came rather suddenly, and left quite a mess. And now, roughly, I guess it's been almost a year since that happened. Almost. Everyone's just sort of got on. Nobody really reaped any sort of consequences, and everybody is still streaming in the end. Well, I suppose there were some consequences for the model artist that was at the center of the whole fracas.
Nanolith is terrible business practice, just terrible attitude, terrible thing overall.
Yeah, has she basically just stopped taking comms or anything like that? Is she just kind of withered away?
From what I've seen, there's, I believe she's not taking comms right now. Grain of salt, but
yeah,
I know there was a lot of damage control, so could be waiting, could be just taking comms without, within a Discord or something or whatever. But she is not well liked anymore. That much is extremely true.
Yeah, and she's not the only one. There's a lot of artists out there they just don't really know how to behave like professionals.
Yeah, like if you have a business and you represent that business, you're held to a specific standard. If you're not going to hold yourself to that specific standard, why are you even in a business to begin with?
Precisely. They thought, oh no, it's just, something I do for fun and, take comms whenever I feel like and do the work whenever inspiration strikes me. No. This is fucking business. People have paid you for your talents and for your work. Get to fucking work right away and get the work done straight away, lest you find yourself out of business, which some people have found out the hard way. It's like, oh yeah, I do need to actually fulfill obligations, and I can't just keep using excuses like, oh, more mental health, and oh, I haven't really been feeling it lately, and blah, blah, blah. No. Get the fucking work done.
Exactly. An interesting case in point, someone had made a statement, this is a little while back. A former friend of mine was in some, dire straits, so it's like, hey, if you donate you donate $50, you'll get like a little art of yourself. I've donated $50 because, right thing to do. I have not so much as seen anything like that.
And you tried messaging them, and they ghost you, and they do the whole routine.
They do that little, oh, I'm not feeling it. Oh, I forgot. Oh, this, that, and the third. It's like, if you give your word, do not be surprised when somebody decides to check you on your word. And then spreads that to others when you don't keep it.
Someone pays you money for something, you damn well better deliver the goods. It stops being about artistry, and it starts being about business. And when somebody pays you money to render services, your ass belongs to them, at least for that short span of time. Those of you who are thinking about making your artwork a business, you would do well to bear that in mind.
Yeah. But also, it's a little bit bigger than that, and I do have strong concerns about Chris's politics, considering that he has a lot of influence on foreign communities. And that's not just his channel in itself, but also all the channels that he influences through his friend group and his tourism brand agency, Sekai Studios. These are huge. Chris and his trash taste friend group have a lot of influence. And that's not to say that tourism is bad or immigration is bad, but in Japan it's gotten ridiculous, and Chris has repeated the sentiment that he is unhappy when there isn't a constant flow of tourism.
Both the Lost Bar team and the JJE team, right, both must be like, Chris, oh my god, numbers are low, there's less people in the bar, what's going on? I'm like, have you not looked out of the bloody window? It's Suyu, it's rainy season. For all of June, it basically rains and it doesn't stop, and no tourists come to Japan. Like, the number of tourists massively drops off a cliff. It's a good time to come here, though.
Right, just make sure the local population never has a break from over-tourism. I think I already established that Chris has a huge profit motive in helping drown out Japanese culture with a constant flow of tourists. But this isn't the only concerning thing that he has promoted.
The number of foreigners working in Japan hits an all-time high. 25% come from the same country.
It's quite a cool thing to see. Much needed, given the decline of population. The LDP, the ruling government over the last sort of decade, has been kind of sneakily bringing in more and more people. They've done a pretty good job bringing in sort of 250,000 foreigners a year to fill the gap and try and fill in the void of workers. Because there just aren't enough young people in Japan to fill all the jobs, the vacancies that are popping up in convenience stores and restaurants and whatnot.
And it all worked. Until it didn't. Until people started noticing, wait a minute, you are resettling whole ethnic blocks in certain parts of the country. people for whom their way of life and their way of thinking is completely and totally alien to us, and who have made it no secret that they want to take over. Yeah, we're not having that. Hence why you see a new power bloc rise up in the LDP in Japan, and they got a new prime minister who seems to be taking the concerns of the people fairly seriously, and is saying, yeah, you know what, we're not doing this anymore, and you want to come here and live here long term, even become a citizen, you're going to have to work a hell of a lot harder for it than you had before. Because at one point, if you had advanced degrees, master's degree or higher, maybe even had like a professional degree, you were a doctor, a lawyer, something like that, and you had some way of opening up a business and sponsoring yourself in terms of immigration, you could be on the pathway to permanent residency in as little as a year. Whereas most people, it would be 5, 8, 10 years. Now, apparently, they're changing up the rules to where, no, nobody's going to be fast-tracked. Everyone's probably looking at 10 years. And oh, by the way, we are going to insist that you demonstrate some level of proficiency in the Japanese language. Whether that's N5, N1, N3, N2, N1, who knows? Which I'm told, and if you believe the rumors, you can pass the N1 exam in Japan and still not know a bloody thing about speaking, reading, or writing Japanese. So, anyway, it's just gotten that much harder to get permanent residency, let alone citizenship in Japan. So, the window for easy permanent residency in Japan has effectively closed.
Means the third world. If you look at the article they're reading, it's mostly people from poor countries that are immigrating. That's who you'll see working in the convenience stores if you go to Japan. And by the way, just as a side note, because the topic of anti-foreign sentiment came up in...
And it wouldn't have been such a big deal had Japan been more selective about who they let in. Like people from Western countries, a lot of white Europeans, for example, wouldn't have had a single issue with that, because they're all, for the most part, we're all a civilized lot. Most people from Western countries, they know how to behave themselves, save for the occasional Logan Pauls or Johnny Somalis. Most people are fairly decent, know how to mind their manners, and they integrate rather well, and they're productive members of society no matter where they go. You can't really say the same for these sort of third world shitholes that they were getting a lot of these people from. So had they been more selective, they probably could have continued to do this sort of thing, and nobody would have paid attention. Nobody would have really noticed, or if they did notice, they wouldn't have necessarily said it's such a bad thing. Like, gosh, we've sure got a lot of people from Britain settling into Sendai or Hokkaido recently. But yeah, they're working hard. They're opening up pubs and got some really good food here, and they're really productive. And hey, we've also managed to solve a doctor shortage too. And there was a dentist shortage over here. That's gone now. And gosh, there's a lot of men in sheds that are building a lot of really cool things. That sort of thing. Nobody would complain about that. Instead, they insisted on trying to flood their country, albeit on a small scale, with, I don't know what all, Indians, Somalis, Afghans, people who are net drain on systems no matter where they go. And that's how we got the situation in the present day.
In Chris's video, when it comes to anti-foreign sentiment, Logan Paul and Johnny Somali aren't really that big of an issue. They're just a hot-button topic for Westerners who don't know that much about Japan.
Yep.
Japan doesn't really have a lot of prejudice towards Americans. The actual
they really
prejudice
don't.
towards foreigners from Japan.
The Japanese are very big Francophiles, Anglophiles. Actually, I would dare say they are bigger Anglophiles than they are Francophiles for all that people tend to obsess over anything French. Deep down on fundamental levels, there is a high degree of Anglophilia. They love anything and everything British, and so much of modern Japanese society is built to model Britain. But they also have a tremendous, deep, and abiding love and respect for Americans. Even after a very bloody World War, which ended in such spectacular fashion with 2 atom bombs, you would think they would have every reason in the world to hate and despise the Americans, and that it would almost be like this sort of blood-based grudge that they would hold on for millennia. And they didn't do any of that. They've just sort of... They remember what happened, but they've also let it go. And it is to the point where, yeah, there's whole neighborhoods, especially close you get to military bases, where the native population, they love catering to the American market.
Japanese people is towards the Chinese and Southeast Asians. And I mean Japanese people really do not like the Chinese because they're infamous for poor behavior. They see the Chinese how Twitter sees Indians. Now, Chris does bring up long working hours being...
And I can confirm, having been over there twice myself, having to deal with Chinese tourists. Second time I was over there, I was over at the Gotemba Premium Outlet Mall. And this was at the time I was newly married. The then wife and I were on our honeymoon. And I think we were in a Swarovski boutique. You know, just looking at the little tchotchkes and items they had for sale. And in burst this huge group of Chinese tourists, probably on some day trip to Mount Fuji like we were. And they practically shove my wife out of the way and push her back while she's looking at things in the display case because they're trying to get the attention of the store attendant. My wife was nearly knocked off her feet. Thankfully, I was close by. I was able to catch her, make sure she didn't. But yeah, we were both appalled at the behavior of Chinese tourists, and that one incident alone really colored our perspective of Chinese, at least from the mainland. Hong Kongers don't really have that sort of problem. They know how to behave. It's people on the mainland that they just so often behave like absolute barbarians. And yeah, we were both a bit miffed about that.
Be quite a bit miffed about it.
Yeah. I've always prided myself on being a fairly restrained sort of person, because if I wasn't, some of those Chinese tourists would have found their heads smashed into the display cases. But I also didn't want to damage the merchandise.
A problem in Japan when it comes to low birth rates, but outside of that, he doesn't really push back against mass immigration at all. Instead, he's like, no, actually it's a good thing to destroy Japan's culture by importing infinite poor people who will accept lower wages and lower working conditions just like they do in the West.
You know, I think people are shocked and surprised when they go into a store and they don't see Japanese workers anymore. It's quite a big change, quite a big deal in Japan, I think. Yeah, it's quite a big change.
I think this is a retarded solution to the problem, and we should all be rejecting the idea of globalism, where the entire world is just a blob of every kind of person, and nothing is actually unique or rich in culture like Japan.
The first
And
thing
while
I
it
hear
is
as soon as I come back is that's just the R word move. I'm like, what the hell? No, that's the first thing I hear as soon as I come back.
What fortuitous timing.
True that labor shortages can be a problem, Chris's solution to this issue is becoming vastly unpopular with Japanese people, and it's...
Yeah, they don't like it. Survey finds 59% of Japanese opposed to actively accepting foreign workers. And you go into certain concept versions of konbinis, like I think we saw this recently with a video. We may have reacted to this on stream, I don't quite remember. But there is, I think it's either in Tokyo or it's in Yokohama, there is a concept. Excuse me. There's a concept shop by Lawson, one of the big leading konbini chains in Japan, and the entire store is automated. There isn't a single person working the registers. You may have people stocking shelves occasionally in the back or something, but for the most part, it is an entirely automated konbini. That was the... Oh yes, I remember. That was the one in particular where you go to the self-checkout stand and the staff is working remotely and they've got animated avatars. So it is an automated konbini with VTubers working the register. I mean, it's a great way to work on your Japanese if you manage to get hired, and I think it's... I don't know, I saw this both times I was in Japan. There was foreign staff working at the 7-Eleven and the Family Mart that were in my... that were at my hotels that had replaced the... they had replaced the gift shop with the konbini, which brilliant move in my view. But especially the 7-Eleven over in Ikebukuro at the, I think it was the Centurion Hotel that I stayed at. I noticed, especially in the late shifts, when I come back to the hotel and wanted to get something quick to eat for dinner, that there was a lot of people that did not look Japanese, very obviously non-Japanese working in that particular 7-Eleven. And I sort of inquired about it, and I said, I notice are you over here, for work? Are you studying, just earning a little extra on the side or something? And they're like, no, we immigrated from another country to come over here and work in the konbini. This is our way of making a living. And we just lost. She'll be back probably. This is our way of making a living. We immigrated over here, and this is our jobs. And it's also we study Japanese in our off hours. But yeah. This is what we do. This is our lives now. So I go, well, all right then.
It's unpopular because mass immigration will not fix the core issues that are causing low birth rates. All it's going to do is turn Japan into the third world. However, I don't think stuff like drowning out the culture of Japan matters to Chris, because I don't think Chris is really all that interested in genuinely helping Japanese people. I think he just sees it as a place to profit. The reason I think that is because of something else that I helped.
It's a very globalist view of Japan, just looking at it as sort of an economic zone, and the population as just a battery farm. It's something you find with a lot of those people that have that kind of rootless cosmopolitan mindset. So prevalent amongst the elite class, especially the elite Western class. And there's also a somewhat sociopathic view of populations when you just look at them as economic zones and battery farms, and major cities are nothing more than just a giant international airport. That's no way to look at places and people. These are distinct parts of the world with distinct languages, cultures, tastes, history, and a distinct people too. And they need to be respected as such. And unfortunately, you won't find that sort of respect with the rootless cosmopolitan class. If anything, you'll find a sort of, I don't know, not even a necessarily racist sort of view. It's just a sense of superiority that they are from nowhere, and they expect everybody else to be from nowhere and not really have any sort of unique identity. And you strip that away, and you strip away something so fundamentally human from people. What could fix Japan's population crisis more than anything is high wages. They've been low to flat, even declining for over 30 years. High wages, keep the price of real estate low, better working conditions, because Lord knows we still have a long way to go with that sort of thing, but also a return to tradition in the form of collective values for the population, because modernity has killed off so much of the incentives to get married and start a family.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And until all that improves, you're going to continue to see a population in decline. A good debt jubilee would also do the trick too, I think.
Back on from the previous video, I don't think Chris speaks Japanese. I don't think he cares enough about Japanese people to learn the language, and apparently, I'm not the only one who feels that way.
Because honestly, I don't know if Abroad in Japan is fluent at this point.
I don't think he is.
Out of the two, I would say Oriental Pearl is probably a better speaker, which could be part of the problem.
Honestly, I thought I was the only one who thought it was incredibly suspicious that you can never find Chris speaking more than like 3 words of Japanese, outside of maybe 2 videos that were made years ago. In one of them, he goes to a Japanese language learning school, and his Japanese is so basic that they have to put him in a beginner class, despite having lived in Japan for almost 7 years at that point. During the video, not only is his pronunciation horrendous, and I can't emphasize enough how much Chris butchers the Japanese language in his videos, so not only that, but if you know Japanese, you can see that he mistranslates the specific nuance of what's being said in the subtitles.
じゃあ、イギリスの出身ですが、6年間ぐらい日本にずっと住んでました。今、仙台に住んで、YouTube という仕事をしています。よろしくお願いします。Thank you very much.
はい、クリスさんはいつ日本へ来ましたか？6年前に。はい。
These subtitles are wrong. The teacher said, when did Chris...
Okay, when did Chris come to Japan? 6 years ago. How long has Chris been in Japan? 6 years. I mean... subtle difference, but it still gets a point across. And it did sound like he was stumbling, but it didn't sound terrible. But it's also fairly basic expressions of Japanese.
Chris come to Japan, and the students responded 6 years ago. Chris's translation was, how long has Chris been in Japan? And the students responded 6 years, which is wrong. Now, this may seem super nitpicky because he got the gist of it correct.
It is.
However, he makes multiple nuance errors in his translation throughout the video, and the problem is that this Japanese is very basic. This type of conversation is the first thing that you learn in Japanese study, and if he's making nuance mistakes on stuff this basic, close to 7 years after you moved, then he did not put that much effort into studying, which means there's no way that he understands any complex Japanese.
It happens to a lot of gaijin or foreigners more often than I think people realize. They have these things in Japan known as gaijin bubbles, where it's really easy to get yourself into a community of expats and even like bilingual, multilingual Japanese who are proficient in and quite fluent in English. And those are the only people that you really talk to or spend time with or associate with. And you don't really go outside of that sort of gaijin bubble and talk with people who, in Japanese, who may not know English as well as you do. And it can be very tempting and very comforting to stay within that bubble. The people who tend to do really well for themselves in Japan and do a much better job of integrating into Japanese society are the ones who are willing to go outside of the gaijin bubble, or even avoid the gaijin bubble entirely, and insist on speaking with people who may not speak English very well, or may not speak it at all, to sort of force them to achieve a greater level of proficiency in Japanese.
And it shows in other content even when he's not speaking that much. For example, in this video that was in my first video about Chris, I noticed something that I didn't really elaborate on because other people that are more fluent than me fought me on it because Chris has been living in Japan for 13 years. Of course he can speak Japanese. So in this video, I noticed that not only does he...
How many of us know people, I mean, all of us here in the VC, we all live in America. How many of us know people who are immigrants, who have been in America for 5-10 years or more, and their English speaking ability is absolutely atrocious? It's like they're not even trying to improve themselves in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Multiple people, actually. I know multiple.
It's almost a universal trait no matter where you go. You can be an expat living abroad, pardon the pun, and spend 10, 20 years of your life somewhere, and you haven't picked up a lick of the local language. It seems like
that's like saying.
Go ahead.
I was about to say that. That's like saying that they like lived like in a country for so long that they know the cuisine, the kind of stuff by hand, and I'm like, no, they don't.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, really. It's like they're not even trying.
Fail at basic pronunciation and stumbles a lot when speaking despite only saying 3 words at a time. He's speaking in short sentences because it makes it easier to hide how bad he is. That's a technique that fake polyglots use a lot. So not only that, but the Japanese lady is using a lot of borrowed English words instead of the Japanese words for them to help him out, and she's gesturing a lot to indicate the meaning of the words that she's using.
Business はどうですか？
あれね、クリスが来てくれてから、YouTube に上げてから、そう、外国のお客さんがいっぱい来てくれるようになって。
Oh my god。どちらの国から来ましたか？オ
ーストラリアとか、カナダからも来た。
どうやってコミュニケーションできますか？
もうとにかくこうジェスチャー、Thank you とかね、もうでお茶飲むとかね、もう。
For those of you.
Okay, so she's sort of used to. She deals with a lot of foreigners, so she's used to that sort of thing. But that is highly unusual for the Japanese. They don't really. They're not like Italians who talk with their hands a lot. If anything, I think that sort of behavior would be considered rude by a lot of Japanese, but in the context of dealing with foreigners, it's acceptable. But yeah, a lot of borrowed English words. Becoming a generally common trait with the Japanese language. It tends to borrow a lot of Western words, be they English words or from the Romantic languages. It just, that's a bit more of a wider cultural phenomenon. But yeah, we're still dealing with a language that's constructed so different from anything else in the Western world.
Who can't speak Japanese. To put it simply, she's speaking to him like a retard, despite him living in the country for 7 years at that point. Now, Chris did release this video here around a year prior, where he is noticeably better, despite still speaking low-level Japanese, so either he cheated with scripting and editing, or he got worse over time. But in this video, he provides some clarity on why he has such poor Japanese, even though he had been living in Japan for a long time.
I haven't actually spoken Japanese in a long time.
It's good practice.
I really don't speak it as much as I should, because a lot of my friends speak English rather well.
He's in a gaijin bubble.
And they always want to practice English, so you feel bad speaking Japanese with them.
So he lives in a gaijin bubble. Gaijin means foreigner, for those of you who don't watch anime, and it's not uncommon for foreigners in Japan to only associate with other foreigners or Japanese people who speak English, and so they don't learn the language. Chris appears to be one of these people, despite knowing a few words and a little bit of grammar, and he hides his speaking ability so much in recent years that I don't think he's gotten better at the language since these videos were made several years ago.
Let's see, this live stream was horrendous. None of these guys actually speak Japanese. Connor said he was taking 1 to 2 hours of lessons per week. That's a joke. Premier 2 has been living in Japan for 10 years, still can't speak past a beginner level. Chris is also a 10-year veteran at this point, barely speaks any Japanese at all. At multiple points, they're speaking to a guy who speaks decent English, but there are several misunderstandings where Chris could have used his expertise to clarify, but he just doesn't. One of, like, 3 times he speaks Japanese is at the 40410 mark. Chris uses the wrong counting system for drinks. How does he not know this? You literally have to use this counting system every time you go to a bar, and Chris drinks a lot. Nobody in this friend group speaks Japanese except for Joey. Connor's the youngest here, but even in newer content, he really isn't much better than he is here. This was from May 2022. Tokyo's #1 nightlife area with abroad in Japan and Premiere 2 from Sea Dog VODs.
Content like, white man speaks Japanese to strangers. Shock, surprise, Sugoi. Mind's blown.
Chris, you couldn't make these kinds of videos. You don't have the skill to make these videos. Korean is Alyssa's 4th language, and she's better at Korean than you are at Japanese.
Yeah, that's the thing about Oriental Pearl. She's not just bilingual in Japanese and English. She is also proficient in Korean and Mandarin Chinese, which is probably, people say English can be a challenge. Try learning Mandarin Chinese, which is a tonal language, where if you get the tones off even by a tiny bit, changes the entire meaning of words, and you could have yourself a diplomatic incident on your hands. Need a reprieve from the path of pain? May I join stream? Of course, Damien. Feel free to pop into VC.
I mean, he had the audacity to call this slop content when his Japanese is so bad that people speak to him like he's a child. He actually admits that he stopped studying Japanese for...
I mean, to be fair, if you're a foreigner, they are probably always going to... Locals will probably talk to you always like you're a child. And they're always going to give you that whole thing of, oh my gosh, your Japanese is so good. For a lot of people, it gets tiring to to keep hearing that over and over and over again and having to respond with good manners of, oh no, it's really not that good. It's really not that good. Welcome in, Damien.
Hello, Damien.
Let me adjust the Discord collab, that way everybody can be seen here. There we go.
multiple years in the pinned comment of the language school video. So half the time he had been in Japan when that video was released, he was not studying. And the 3 years prior studying that he did was a lot, but it's not enough to be highly fluent at Japanese unless you practice all day. Learning Japanese takes a very long time. But geez, he's LARPing in this comment. There's no way he's anywhere near JLPT 1. I think he would struggle to pass JLPT 4 after seeing this video. Also, you can pass the highest level of that test and still not be able to speak Japanese, so the JLPT is useless. Anyway, him...
Yeah, this is who I heard it from.
Not knowing Japanese makes all this grandstanding really funny. He's out there basically saying that Japanese people don't really think that graffiti is a problem. Well, how the fuck do you know? You can't even talk to them or understand the news.
At the end of the video, I talked about how I've lived here 13 years and people write off my opinions because I'm not born in Japan. I'm not Japanese. And at what point do I become a local? What point does my opinion matter something?
Never. Never. You will never be one of them. This is a part of the world and a society and culture that you could speak Japanese as fluent as a native, be able to write it perfectly, be able to read it at an advanced scholarly level, and you could perfectly LARP as a Japanese citizen. You will never be one of them because you don't look like them.
I would like to add this. It's just the fact that he admits himself has been living in Japan for over a decade and he hasn't made any progress in his ability to speak the language, nor has he made an attempt to integrate into the culture. So if he sincerely wants his opinion to count, he would actively need to put in the effort required to at least have someone take him seriously, but he doesn't do that. So he disqualifies himself, not just on the merit of his effort, but also due to the fact that he will never be Japanese.
Yeah, no, that's all entirely a fair point. Yeah, but it's, at most, he could hope to be treated like a VIP hotel guest. because
True.
that is the most that anybody will regard him as.
Or
Even
you
if he
could
gets
try
citizenship, anything.
Or you could try to strive. Like I remember one of the music composers for Ghost of Tsushima.
Mhm.
That entire like development team for the game were honored by the Japanese government. So it's like you could get recognized by the Japanese, but you need to put in a considerable amount of effort for that.
Yes. If you do make a significant contribution to the arts and have a massive cultural impact, but even just a noticeable cultural impact in Japan, they do have avenues towards permanent residency and citizenship that you can pursue. And there's even certain awards that I believe are bestowed upon people like that by the Prime Minister or the Emperor, which it's not only an incredibly high honor in Japanese society, but it's also you get rewarded with a pension. You basically get a small pension for when you retire. Aiden, hello, happy birthday, Rex. It is not my birthday, but thank you very much, nevertheless. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I saw people react being like, I think it's important we got the locals' opinions on this. I am inherently a local, and I lived in Meguro for 3 years or so, but at what point do you become a local? What point does your opinion become valid?
It counts when you can speak the language, Chris. If you're not going to learn it, then leave. Go back to England. Alyssa was taking college courses in Japanese at the 6-year point.
I would recommend to go
yet
back
at
to
that
England.
point, you
I don't
couldn't
think
even
England
handle
wants to go
Harry
back to
Potter or
England.
say basic sentences without stumbling. How am I supposed to believe you have an informed opinion on the ideas of Japanese people when you can't even speak to them on a level higher than a 6 or a 7-year-old?
And I had people attack me this year. They'd be like, "Oh, Chris is wrong. He's just a foreign guy living in Japan." We had some things happen earlier on this year, which I won't dredge up, but people were ruling out my opinion because I wasn't Japanese.
The cultural tide has shifted, and you're not keeping up. You're being left behind, Chris. You're being rendered irrelevant. Your relevancy has slipped because you're not keeping up with the way the winds are blowing or the way the cultural tides are going in or out. And so you risk a loss of relevance as a result.
Let me clarify that because I think he's being unclear here on purpose. He had Japanese people attack him for stupid opinions that he had. I mean, Chris, you're the exact kind of entitled foreigner that everyone hates in places like America. You don't speak the language, you advocate in favor of things that Japanese people don't want, like vandalism, and you're like, yeah, what Japan really needs is a ton of poor people from foreign countries.
So wait a minute, we need to go back to a frame here. This is a live stream on YouTube. And this was a bridge that Oriental Pearl was up on, showing off all the graffiti. Someone spray paints NFKE, and Chris writes in the comments section, NFKE is a graffiti artist, making excuses for ugly graffiti.
The only time I would say graffiti can be excused if the person has actual talent. That's mediocre.
Yeah, that's just tagging something. That's just being a little punk or a dick and, spray painting your name and saying NFKE was here.
Yeah, it doesn't have any class behind it. You're just kind of like,
Yeah.
eh.
Now, at least somebody like Banksy, for all of his shitty politics, at least he puts in the effort. At least he puts in the work and creates something that is genuinely fucking impressive. NFKE, this is just, at most he's just some little punk ass bitch or some, wannabe gangbanger doing tagging acts in a foreign country. It's like, what the fuck are you doing here, bringing that shit over to a relatively low crime, high trust, monocultural society, an ethno-state, as it were? What the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out. The Japanese, and everyone else for that matter, does not have any need nor desire to see that sort of shit in a major city in Japan. No. Just fuck off.
Vandalism, and you're like, yeah, what Japan really needs is a ton of poor people from foreign countries who won't learn the language to move here and replace the local population. Then you go and defame someone who's actually trying to help the Japanese. I'm sorry, I guess your film studying hobbies were more important than learning the language and respecting the culture that's invited you in. Anyway, it's actually insane how easy it was for Chris to defame Oriental Pearl, because basically no one fact-checked him. I think the lesson of the day here is that we shouldn't just blindly believe people, especially if they aren't very transparent about their sources. Like maybe if, say, a former professional doxer named Candace Owens starts citing her dreams as a resource, you should be suspicious.
Like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. And so for me, you don't have to believe that, but I do believe that. And it was the immediate sense I got, actually. And I don't know who exactly it is that betrayed him, but I also felt in the dream that it is soon going to be revealed, that it's actually inevitable that it is going to be revealed, that there is nothing and no one that is going to stop the truth from coming out, and it is going to have international consequences. Take that to the bank. Quote me on that.
I don't think I will, Candace. As a matter of fact, this is all giving off vibes of, darling, you cheated on me in my dream. Which, my ex-wife tried that shit on me, and I held my ground rather firmly and said, you know, it's a good thing it was a dream, but that did not fucking happen. Again, I say, it was a dream. It did not actually happen. What you dreamt up is fantasy, is not reality, which you should definitely be incredibly obvious and over-the-top obnoxious about that sort of thing anytime a woman tries that shit on you. To let them know, no, we're not having that shit. We are not dealing with that.
Exactly.
You want to find some sort of creative excuse to be annoyed or angry at me, you're going to have to do a much better job than that. Valley Ryan, welcome in. What the fuck? If anything, that's insecurity manifesting into her dream or subconscious. Yes, I think that's exactly what it is. It's just insecurity at the end of the day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just needing to be reminded that what is real is that did not actually happen. And that, no, faithfulness is still the reigning theme of the day.
Mm.
You're probably just laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Since she obviously accused you of cheating on her in a dream, did she ever ask you, would you still love me if I was a worm?
No. No, never really asked. I to my ex-wife's credit, she knew better than to ask stupid questions like that.
I wanted to finish my bingo.
Say again?
I wanted to tick off my checklist so I could get a bingo.
Okay, I must be leaving coming back at the wrong time, because the only thing I hear is when I come back is, would you tell me if I was a worm? That's all I hear when I come back. That's just my tiring. What is my tiring today?
Just poor timing, I guess.
People like this instead of giving them millions of views.
You never know
That's
what you're
really
going to come
the
back
issue
to.
here. It's the lack of ridiculing people for not being transparent about their resources. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
All right. That was Think Before You Sleep. Valley Ryan, welcome in.
Hello.
All right. So we just got done with a semi-serious video here. We're just sort of easing our way towards the lighter things. Let's see here. Yeah.
The thing is this, do the tabs even decrease? Do they ever get less? Has there been a time where
they
you could
do
say the
eventually?
Eventually.
All right. I
thought for my stream that I done today, I had about 10 tabs open, and I thought it was a lot. And then I see this, and I'm like, nah, it wasn't that much.
Glad I can make you feel your clutter, your mess of tabs is smaller in comparison.
I do organize them. I will say that by topic.
Mine's organized. For the most part.
The pause is in it. The pause is in it. Just said it's organized.
You
For the
know,
most part.
mostly. There's a method to the absolute madness. Anyways, enough about my tab count. Let's actually try and get rid of some of these tabs. Let us put some productivity to these completely and entirely unwarranted complaints. Okay, so staying on Japan, but transitioning over to the world of moving things, because I've got a few things about trains and cars. So, who here, well, I should probably ask, who here has either been to Japan or knows anything about Japan's public transport systems in their cities? Okay. All right, good.
Very little.
Okay.
Only know a fair bit from when Resort went to Japan.
Oh, that's right. He did go not too long ago, didn't he? Yeah.